Well, hey everyone again. It is Chris Erickson here and Mike Chastain, and we're going to finish up talking about extreme ownership. After this, I bet you're going to go get the book. But we just wanted to share a last point that we thought was great that would fit really well applying to leading the team or group that you are leading, and that is effective leaders utilize something called decentralized command, which sounds kind of odd. It's a very military sounding term.
Yep.
But explained really well, and he actually, again, another great story.
Yep.
In the book.
So Leif Babin was the Charlie platoon commander of the SEAL unit of Task Unit Bruiser. He served with probably one of the most famous Navy SEALs out there, Chris Kyle. I'm sure most of you have heard of him. So they were on a mission providing overwatch security for an Army platoon that was doing some house clearing during the Battle of Ramadi. And they saw across the way a person in a window, kind of like a building, or a three-story building where there were some curtains, and Chris Kyle saw a military-age male with a rifle that had a scope on it. Now, usually when you see that, it's snipers, and that's usually one of the more deadly issues that they have during combat, because it's you don't see them, and that really is what hurts. So with that, they radioed the Army commander, and he was going to have his task unit out there that had the Bradley fighting vehicles fire on that position. However, Chris Kyle, being there on his rifle scope and binoculars, going, hey, something's not right. This guy keeps not appearing, but something's not right. So Leif Babin called in, said, hey, count the buildings, make sure it's the right one. So they did. They said, nope, we're not in that building, because they knew that they were still clearing buildings. He said, all right, Chris, there's no one in there. Keep an eye on it. They're going to fire. And Chris was going, nope, something's off here. Yeah. There's something wrong. Have them count the buildings again. Radios the Army commander. He's getting upset now, going, look, there's no one in that building. I don't want to lose any men. Take it out. And they're saying, nope, hold it. Check one more time. Just in case. Mm-hmm. So they finally, raided the guys on the road and said, hey, recount the buildings. And you can tell the guys on the road are getting upset, because they're going, wait a minute, if there's a sniper, you got to take him out before he takes us out. Yeah. So they go in, they count the buildings again, and it turns out they counted wrong the first time. So the building that they were actually looking at was the building that U.S. troops were in, clearing it still. Mm-hmm. So Chris was still able to say, hey, look, there's something in there, and being enlisted Navy military member, to go up to a colonel or to radio a colonel who's back in command saying, hey, we're going to blow this building up, and you're going negative. There's something there. That colonel could have been like, whatever, take it out, mm-hmm. and not listen to him. Yeah. But he also utilized decentralized command and said, hey, look, you're on the front line. You get a lot different picture than what I do behind a computer screen. Yeah. And so that was the example of decentralized command.
I love how, and like you had just said it, Chris Kyle could have had to go up the chain of command. Yep. But one of the things Jocko talks about a lot with decentralized command is they listen up and down. Right. And so where there is this chain of command, it doesn't just say, okay, well, Jocko made this decision, so no matter what, that's the decision made. Chris Kyle knew that he had the ability to speak into that and offer that suggestion, which we hear and maybe think, okay, well, yeah, that's common sense. But the truth is, do we actually apply that in our groups? If we have people in our groups that are like, hey, you know what, we would love to try this other book, mm-hmm. or we want to do this night. I know, I was just saying, I kind of experienced that almost right away over at our East location, and it's a real simple thing, but when we first launched, and we were always in the mornings, the sun would shine off windshields through those glass doors, through that far right door in the auditorium, and would just blind our ushering team. And they came to me and were like, hey, can we switch, can we shut this door and open up the other two? And I could have easily been like, no, I made this decision, that door's staying open. But as Jack was talking about before, they were the ones on the front line, they're the boots on the ground, so they probably know better. And Decentralized command is all about just acknowledging, like, hey, these people who are in it probably understand a little bit better.
Right.
And there are people on our teams that, and it doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but there are people on our teams that offer great suggestions or, have opinions that they should be able to have that trust of they're going to listen up and down. It doesn't just come from the leader. But one of the things that, we had talked about before, and Jocko brings up that I just absolutely love and wanted to end with, was the idea that you can only lead, an effective leader can only lead, 6 to 8 people?
Correct. And that's a biblical principle that Moses even talks about too.
Yeah. And most of us probably try and lead a lot more than that.
Yep.
For one of the easiest ways, if you want to practice decentralized command within your team, is to have a second in command. Pretty simple. Is that something you guys have in your...
And just teaching people, just saying, hey, look, here's the, the expectation. But as, a leader, you also look at, the other, potential leaders in a group, and you train them and you give them the tools that they need so that if they do see something, or if they do say, hey, look, we're starting to see more couples struggle with marriage. Can we do a marriage study? Absolutely. Because I might not see it that, the other couples do. And so they feel comfortable to come to me or to come to any other leaders and say, hey, we're seeing this, where I might not be seeing it in my little bubble, where they're seeing it and saying, hey, our community needs this. And so to feel comfortable with that and to be, attentive to it, say, yep, roger that, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then we're good to go.
It's such a simple concept that I think goes unutilized often.
Absolutely.
And I can say from a lot of my own experience that I didn't utilize it more times than I should have. And I think it's one of the best things we can do in a group because it builds trust, it empowers other people, and it essentially it frees us up to where, like you were saying, if you have a heart for something and they have a heart for something, God's putting that on your heart.
Yep.
We can go after it, But man, I'm glad. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm glad you watched. Thank you, Mike, so much
absolutely.
for recommending the book. And man, I recommend it. Extreme Ownership. It's definitely worth it. But we hope you guys are able to take this and apply it into your groups and just become more effective leaders, more effective disciple makers for Christ. We'll talk to you guys soon.